You've always been the quiet one. Not because you had nothing to say, but because everything inside you felt too big to risk releasing. You learned early how to sit still in the presence of noise, how to swallow words before they could cause damage, how to read the room before you ever spoke a sentence, how to sense emotional shifts before they were named. You didn't disappear. You contained yourself. And now, years later, you might feel the strange weight of it, a heaviness behind the ribs, a constant emotional pressure with no outlet, a mind that never truly rests. You feel deeply, intensely, excessively, some would say, but you don't show it. You've become fluent in restraint. Here is the paradox that defines your inner world. The thing that once protected you is now the thing quietly exhausting you. Your silence once kept you safe. Now it keeps you unseen. Your emotional depth once made you adaptable. Now it makes you lonely. And perhaps the most painful truth of all, you learned to be quiet not because you were weak, but because you were too perceptive for the environment you were in. This is not a story about introversion. This is a story about emotional overcontainment, about people who feel too much and learn to survive by hiding it. Part 2, Definition and Psychological Authority. Imagine a deep ocean with no waves on the surface. Still, calm, almost deceptive. But beneath that surface, entire weather systems move. That is the inner world of someone who stays quiet but feels too much. Psychologically, this pattern is not a personality trait. It is an adaptation. Let's name what's really happening. 1. Emotional neglect schema. This does not require abuse. No yelling, no chaos, no obvious harm. Emotional neglect happens when your feelings were consistently unmet, minimized, or overlooked. You learned, my emotions are inconvenient. My needs overwhelm people. I should handle things on my own. So instead of expressing emotion, you internalized it. The nervous system adapted by turning inward. 2. Hypervigilance. When emotional environments feel unpredictable, the brain becomes alert. Hypervigilance is not anxiety, it's anticipation. You learn to monitor tone shifts, read microexpressions, feel emotional changes before words appeared. This creates a mind that never powers down. Your default mode network, the brain system active during rest, never rests. It loops, replays, analyzes, quiet on the outside, relentless on the inside. 3. Avoidant adapted attachment, often misunderstood. You may crave connection deeply, but learn that expressing emotional need risks rejection. So instead of asking for closeness, you self-regulate in isolation. You appear independent, calm, low maintenance. But internally, connection feels like hunger. Not because you don't trust people, but because you learn not to burden them. This combination creates the archetype, the emotionally contained observer. Someone who feels intensely but believes expression equals danger. Part 3. Emotional Cost and Philosophical Weight. Carl Jung once wrote, "The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parents. But there is another burden rarely named, the unlived emotional life of the self. When you stay quiet but feel too much, you pay a silent price. You trade authenticity for acceptance, expression for stability, truth for peace. And you do this every day. You learn to smile while something breaks inside you. You learn to listen while wishing someone would notice you. You learn to carry invisible grief. Invisible grief is mourning without permission, grieving the conversations you never had, the emotions you swallowed, the versions of yourself that never learned to speak. The core fear beneath all of this is simple. If I express my full emotional reality, I will be too much, too intense, too sensitive, too complicated. So you become palatable. But here is the tragedy. You don't go numb. You feel everything anyway, which means the pain doesn't disappear. It just has nowhere to go. Seneca warned that suppressed emotion doesn't vanish. It transforms into internal torment. And so, silence becomes tension. Calm becomes exhaustion. Strength becomes isolation. This is the quiet suffering few people notice. Part 4. Adult Manifestation and the Unlearning Process. These patterns do not stay in childhood. They mature with you. They shape your adult life in subtle, self-blaming ways. You might, in relationships, feel deeply attached but struggle to express needs. Attract emotionally avoidant partners. Overgive emotionally while receiving little. Feel unseen but unable to ask for more. In career, be highly perceptive but under-recognized. Avoid self-promotion despite competence. Carry emotional labor silently. Burn out quietly. In self-worth, measure value by usefulness. Feel guilty for resting. Minimize your pain compared to others. Feel dramatic for normal emotions. In boundaries, say, I'm fine when you're not. Absorb others' emotions. Feel responsible for harmony. Struggle to say no. In emotional regulation, oscillate between numbness and overwhelm. Cry alone, but stay composed publicly. Intellectualize feelings instead of feeling them. In internal identity, feel like a background character in your own life. Question whether you are truly known. Carry a deep sense of invisibility. These are not flaws. They are coping mechanisms that outlive their usefulness. The beginning of healing is not correction, it's witnessing. Seeing these behaviors without shame. Not asking, what's wrong with me? But asking, what did this protect me from? Part 5. Healing, Conclusion, and Affirmation. Healing for the quiet feeling person is not about becoming louder. It's about becoming truer. 1. Inner child reparenting. Begin speaking to the part of you that learned silence. Say, your feelings make sense. You don't have to earn safety. You are allowed to take up emotional space. 2. Shadow work. Explore the disowned parts of you. Anger, need, desire, expression. These are not weaknesses, they are vitality. 3. Nervous system regulation. Your body learned restraint. Teach it safety, slow breathing, somatic awareness, gentle expression, choosing softness over survival. 4. Practice emotional expression in safe spaces. Not everyone deserves your depth, but someone does. Start small. Speak one truth. Let it land. Rainer Maria Rilke wrote, "Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final." And that is the truth you are learning now. You were never meant to be fixed. You were meant to be felt. The goal is not to erase sensitivity, but to integrate it. Not to become loud, but to become whole. If this resonated, share it with someone who lives quietly but feels deeply. And if you want to continue this journey, subscribe. You don't have to disappear to belong anymore. Part 6. The depth of emotional expression and rediscovery. For years, you learned to live without the one thing you needed most, permission to feel. You were told, indirectly or directly, that expressing emotion would lead to consequences, rejection, chaos, vulnerability, and even more silence. So, instead, you learned to suppress it, bottling it up, hiding it beneath a mask of composure. But the problem with this silence is that it's not neutral. It doesn't keep you safe. It creates internal decay. It fractures your sense of self. In fact, it builds a wall between you and your truth. That's what we often miss. The longer we withhold our authentic emotional expression, the more we forget who we are without it. You may be thinking, but I don't know how to express what I feel anymore. That's okay. You were never taught how. It wasn't modeled for you. The key here isn't to suddenly become an emotional explosion, but to reclaim the lost parts of yourself. To start by simply giving yourself permission to be present with what is inside of you. Rediscovering your voice doesn't require dramatic words. It begins in the quiet spaces of self-awareness. It's the acknowledgement that your feelings, even when they feel too much, have value. It's the practice of self-compassion, of allowing yourself to feel those intense emotions without fear of judgment. And most importantly, it's the recognition that your feelings do not define your worth. They are simply a natural part of being human. Imagine you're holding a wound. You've been told it's too sensitive to touch, so you cover it up and it begins to fester. But healing doesn't happen by ignoring it. It happens by gently addressing it, allowing the discomfort to move through you. In time, you'll learn to reintroduce vulnerability piece by piece. It may feel overwhelming at first, but gradually you'll learn that your emotional intensity isn't a burden. It's the doorway to greater freedom and intimacy. Part 7. Reclaiming authenticity and breaking the cycle. You're at a crossroads. The patterns you've carried for years no longer serve you, but they have shaped who you are today. The struggle is real. Do I continue to live as the quiet, contained person I've always been? Or do I risk breaking out of the mold and becoming someone new? The reality is, you don't need to force change. The goal isn't to become someone you're not. It's to remember who you were before you learned to silence yourself. To reclaim the parts of you that were dismissed or buried under the weight of your own restraint. And most importantly, It's about learning to live in alignment with your true self rather than in the shadow of your childhood adaptations. But breaking the cycle requires intentionality. Step 1. Recognizing the pattern. The first step in unlearning your emotional suppression is awareness. You've spent so much of your life moving through the world trying to protect yourself that you might not even recognize the barriers you've placed around your own heart. But those walls, though they may feel like safety, are also what keeps you locked in emotional isolation. They are what prevent real, meaningful connections from forming. So ask yourself, what am I protecting myself from? Is it the judgment of others? Is it the fear of being abandoned? Is it the belief that showing your pain will push people away? You are more than the sum of your coping mechanisms. Step 2. Learning to be seen. You don't have to be loud to be noticed, but you do have to show up. Showing up for yourself means being present, not just physically, but emotionally. It means speaking your truth, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. It means setting boundaries with compassion, saying no when you need to, and allowing others to see your vulnerability. True connection happens when we allow ourselves to be fully seen, not just the parts we want others to see. And you can be seen without losing yourself. In fact, being seen is one of the most powerful ways to reclaim your emotional sovereignty. You don't need to hide your depth or diminish your sensitivity. The world needs the person you've been hiding. Step 3. Reclaiming your power. This journey of emotional reclamation is not a straight path. There will be moments of resistance. There will be times when the old patterns resurface and urge you to retreat into silence. But each time you speak your truth, set a boundary, or express a feeling that scares you, you're breaking the chains that once kept you in emotional captivity. This process requires patience. It's not an overnight transformation, but every step forward, no matter how small, is a step toward becoming the full expression of who you are meant to be. You are not your past wounds. You are not your silence. You are a person who has learned to survive through quietness, but you are also someone capable of thriving in authenticity. Final affirmation: you are whole. Healing is a journey, one that asks for your courage to show up for yourself. The quiet, contained version of you isn't wrong. They were the version you needed to survive. But now, you have the power to embrace all that you are. There is no such thing as being too much. The truth is, you are exactly what this world needs, in all your emotional depth, your sensitivity, your quiet strength. The goal isn't to be fixed. The goal is to become whole, to embrace your voice, to honor your emotions, to stop hiding in the shadows of your own heart. Remember this: your silence may have protected you in the past, but now it's time to let yourself be fully heard. When you do, you will discover that the world doesn't just tolerate your depth, it celebrates it. You will find that true connection, love, and acceptance are waiting for you, not in your silence, but in the boldness of your authentic expression. Closing: if this video resonated with you, share it with someone who might need this message. You are not alone in this journey. And remember, you don't have to disappear to belong anymore.